Hey everybody, today's daily number is 6. 6 days is the amount of time that it took for Elon Musk to basically reverse his new Twitter seat from being on the board to now being off the board in only 6 days, in less than a week. But welcome everybody to the Daily Number Show. I'm Kamari Ellis. I'm a tax accountant by day, financial educator by night, and every day I come to you with the Daily Number to share some financial news with the hopes of helping you learn finances and get a better financial educational grasp upon things. All right, so today we're going to talk, as always, we're going to do our stock market rundown. We are going to talk about Mr. Elon Musk's departure from Twitter's board, right? We're going to talk about that. And we're always going to do our affirmation of the day. All right. So as we get into it, I am going to, pull up the screens here like we do every day and go over what's going on in the market. One of the reasons I love to go over what's going on in the market, because the market, in my opinion, is probably the highest level of business that you can ever see, witness, partake in, and it's all right there at your fingertips. And a lot of people don't realize that just by studying the stock market, that you are actually studying business at its highest level. So that's one of the reasons why I love the stock market, again, because it just shows you everything about business at this snap of a finger. All right. So again, today we're going to be talking about the S&P 500. That is the first thing we go over. Oh, there we go. I was about to say, having some technical difficulties. But today, S&P 500 closed at 4,412. 4,412. It is down year to date. It's still down roughly 5-6%. Let's see what the board is. Oh, down the S&P 500 is down 7.42%. So it's interesting that as more and more things start to get in play here, that the market's still kind of in the mix. I still believe it's kind of flat from these last couple of weeks. We're seeing more and more pressure come out of Ukraine. There are some chemical weapons. How can we say this? Chemical weapon accusations, right? So Ukraine is now blaming Russia or accusing Russia of using chemical weapons. So that is going to make this theater of war a bit more interesting. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for that. All right, crude oil, the next thing that we like to cover, still under $100, closing at $95.26 per barrel. $95.26 per barrel. Oil is still up year to date, up 26.26 cents per barrel. All right, excuse me. Let me say that again. Oil is up 26.26%. All right, so still putting a crunch on the pocketbooks and wallets, but it's a whole lot further down than where it was at when it hit 130 a barrel. And I know there's a little bit of relief coming that way by gas, especially now Biden is pumping oil into the market to help bring these prices down. But it's going to continue to be interesting. Gold's at 1956. Now, we saw gold hit at 1920 level on Friday when we did our show. Now it's at 1956. Starting to push up again. Some of those accusations of chemical war, I believe, is starting to push it up, thinking that this thing is going to be this war being a prolonged incident, and it's going to continue to be an issue for quite some time. Hopefully not, though. Hopefully one day everybody can just get along. All right. And Bitcoin has been fluctuating like a roller coaster lately. All right. So now last week we saw Bitcoin hit 45,000. Right now, Bitcoin is at $39,689. Again, $39,689. And what did I tell you about Bitcoin? What have I been saying about the S&P? They're kind of following suit. So right now, Bitcoin is down about 14% year to date, double that of what the S&P is down. So they seem to be following one another. That's, to me, is very, very, very interesting in terms of what's going on in the markets and where the money is flowing. Money flows tell a lot about where you can potentially be looking to invest as we go forward. Now, other number of the day, All right. Seven. Seven is the number of days left before the tax deadline. Again, I'm just going to keep giving you all a reminder. Y'all know I'm a tax accountant. I live, eat, sleep, and breathe taxes all the time. So make sure y'all get y'all tax returns in by April 18th. They are due April 18th. Make sure you get them in. If you can't get them in, if you cannot get them in, make sure you file an extension. All right. Remember, an extension is an extension to file your taxes, the actual paperwork. It is not an extension to pay your bill. All right. Now, if you are filing extensions and you do believe you are going to owe some money, send a little good faith estimate in. All right. Make Caesar happy a little bit when you just send him a little bit of his tribute. Okay. But okay, on to the rest of the daily number for the day. Let's talk about Mr. Musk. Mr. Musk is a bit rogue. Now, I've always said that. Y'all know I'm not the biggest fan of Mr. Musk, but I remain objective. So we're going to cover some of the stories of what's going on now. Last week, Elon Musk said he was going to join the board of Tesla. He brought roughly a 9.2% stake in Twitter, right? Ownership matters, y'all, right? He brought that stake in Twitter, and allegedly, air quotes, allegedly, the board, the CEO of Twitter, extended an offer to the board for Mr. Musk so they can cap Mr. Musk's ability to buy Twitter stock and go and gain a bigger controlling interest of Twitter stock. Now, here is a thing that you all should go back and look at. If you remember the movie Wall Street, when he said greed was good, when I can't think of the name, Charlie Sheen, not Charlie Sheen. What was his name? Charlie Sheen's daddy, right? Michael Douglas. When Michael Douglas said greed is good, what he was doing in that movie he was doing was called leverage buyouts or hostile takeovers. So if you have a chance, go back, watch the movie, look at what he was doing. There's a great comparison of what many think and feel Elon is up to with Twitter. All right. But hostile takeovers are when people basically buy up the shares, take controlling seats of the board, basically take over the board, take over the company, and steer the company in the way that they want. Usually it's for the benefit, again, air quotes, it's for the benefit of shareholders, or it is at least done in the name of shareholder interest. So take a look at that. You can learn about money just about anywhere you look if you have your eyes and ears open and are tuned for it. All right. So again, Elon's now off the board of Twitter. Why? He didn't want to play by the rules. So I'm not going to freestyle this too much, right? I saw the news break. I saw the Twitter CEO respond. I actually tweeted about it myself, but I want to go through the facts. On what was reported so we can all see what the deal is. All right, so the Wall Street Journal is reporting. Headline says here, Elon Musk, again, an outsider at Twitter, emerges as unshackled wildcard, look at the words, for company. Twitter employees and analysts foresee a potential fracas with the world's richest man on paper. All right, so there was a couple things here in this article, and again, in the tweet, I'll show the tweet in a minute, but there was a couple things here I thought were really, really interesting. So article states, Elon Musk's surprise decision not to join Twitter's Inc. board gives social media company less control over its largest shareholder, paving the way for him to press for changes and speak out freely about the company as an activist investor. All right. After unveiling last week a roughly 9% stake in Twitter, Mr. Musk was offered a seat on the board, which he declined on Saturday. All right. A series of tweets over the weekend by Mr. Musk together targeted the core of Twitter's business, seemingly suggesting the company shut down its headquarters and cut staff while shifting from an ad-based business to one that depends more upon subscriptions to arrive. So here's a question for the listening audience, right? And for those who are watching on the replay and broadcast. Do you think people are willing to spend their hard-earned dollars on Twitter? Would people be really willing to spend, I don't know, $5, $9.99, $14.99, $19.99 on a Twitter subscription? One of the things I actually appreciate about Twitter, and I'll get right back to the article, is that they haven't let advertising actually hijack them as many other social media platforms. If you go on Facebook, if you go on Instagram, they are rife with ads. All you see is ads. And it's like, geez, I just want to kind of connect with my friends, connect with my tribe, but I have to go through all of these ads to get to it. And I get it too. I get it that these platforms are free. So they have to begin to monetize some kind of way. I got that. I got that. But I want to know, what do you think? Would you be willing to pay for a Twitter subscription? Chime in the chat and let me know. So let me see here. Let me know. Let me blow this up. Let me blow this up a little bit so everybody can see it. So the power of corporations to dictate policy is greatly enhanced if Twitter depends on advertising money to survive, Mr. Musk said in a tweet that was later deleted. On Monday, Mr. Musk indicated in a regulatory filing that he is still might engage with Twitter on a range of issues without limitation. I want y'all to keep that word without limitation, or that phrase without limitation, in the front of your mind. Not the back, but in the front of your mind. That's going to come back up later. The company's products and services, potential mergers, and governance issues were among the issues Mr. Musk might discuss with Twitter's board and management. He said in the filing, the Tesla Inc.'s chief executive can express his views about Twitter on social media or speak directly with executives and board members, the following stage. So again, as a board member, Mr. Musk would have been limited to holding less than 14.9% of Twitter shares, but his reversal raises at least the possibility that he will attempt a hostile takeover. Remember, I brought that up earlier. All right. Mr. Musk, who has expressed concern that Twitter's content moderation practices inhibit free speech. I got a whole lot to say about that, but let's get through the article. He deleted some of his weekend tweets because he was saying all kinds of stuff. He was wilding all over the weekend. And he always wilds on Twitter. He was making fun of Twitter's CEO. He makes fun of Twitter CEO quite often, right? But he uses Twitter very much like the Orange Monkey does. He uses Twitter very much like the Orange Monkey does. So I find this interesting with all this talk about free speech. But let's get back to the article. So Mr. Musk, who has expressed concern that Twitter's content moderation practices inhibit free speech, deleted some of his weekend tweets on Monday. The executive also liked the tweet Monday that said, let me break this down for you. Elon became largest shareholder for free speech. Elon was told to play nice and not speak freely. This whole thing about, you know what, let me hold off. The Tesla CEO didn't respond to a request for a comment. A Twitter spokesperson had no comment about Mr. Musk. Twitter employees who spoke with the Wall Street Journal said the situation with Mr. Musk has created anxiety and uncertainty for some among the company's workforce. Some employees are concerned about how Mr. Musk's influence could change the direction of the company. Many of the employees at Twitter now were there when Elliott Management Corp attempted to oust former CEO Jack Dorsey in 2020 with Elliott. However, there is a general playbook for the investment firm, said a former Twitter executive. With Mr. Musk, there is no playbook, the executive said, meaning he's just willy-nilly. Last week, the company said that it was planning to host a Q&A. It was planning to host a Q&A session for employees with Mr. Musk this weekend. That session has now been scrapped, a Twitter spokesperson said on Monday. Analysts pondered what Mr. Musk's moves to not join the board means for his role with Twitter. It will allow him more freedom to accumulate shares as well as criticize Twitter on Twitter. So basically, he just want to go into your house, talk trash about you in your house, and be free to do it. Monday's filing by Mr. Musk states he doesn't currently have any plans or intentions to change his holdings in the company, but it notes that he reserves the right to change his plans at any time. How duplicitous, as he deems appropriate, and in light of his ongoing evaluation of numerous factors. This now goes from a Cinderella story with Mr. Musk joining the Twitter board and keeping his stake under 14.9%, helping move Twitter strategically forward to likely a Game of Thrones battle between Musk and Twitter. Dan Ives, a managing director with Wedbush Securities, wrote in a note, Mr. Ives said that it's likely Mr. Musk takes a more hostile stance towards Twitter and further builds his active stake in the company. Twitter share rose more than 1% Monday, while Tesla shares fell more than 4%. Mr. Musk has long determined a defiance of customary business norms and has shown a willingness to publicly fight for his own self-interest and values. He has sparred with lawmakers, regulators, and rivals, and we'll talk about that as well. Often using Twitter as his most potent weapon. Some of his most searing fights were board member brawls years ago from the control of companies he was involved with personally. In the late 2000s, as chairman of then Tesla Motors, he used his power as the company's biggest investor to boot the startup's founding CEO, because again, a lot of people think Elon founded Tesla. He did not found Tesla. He didn't found PayPal either. All right, founding CEO Martin Eberhard, as the company struggled to put into production its first vehicle, the Roadster sports car. Mr. Musk eventually took the reins as CEO in late 2008 as the automaker neared financial collapse during the 2007-2008 recession. He deployed his panache for generating media attention. I call that P.T. Barnum-ism. And eventually Twitter to stoke investors' enthusiasm for financial support to keep struggling Tesla alive and growing. As part of that effort, he raised billions of dollars that ultimately turned Tesla into the world's most valuable automaker and built a brand that has largely used the power of free social media to eschew traditional paid advertising. Funny. Now he wants to get rid of it. He built off of it. Now he wants to get rid of paid advertising. So as his wealth has grown and power solidified, Mr. Musk has faced little resistance from his own board at Tesla. They're a bunch of yes men and women. Where his long-term business partners and brothers are members, they have continued to support him even as Mr. Musk has taken steps that would have likely tanked the careers of CEOs at other publicly traded companies. There's a pattern here. I don't know if y'all recognize it or not, but there's a pattern here. There is a grade pattern here. I'm not going to keep reading y'all the article, but that was the parts that I found most interesting, right? Now, Elon has a history of fights. If anybody remembers, PayPal kicked him out as well, right? He's a rebel. Not my kind of rebel, but he's a rebel. He does things basically for his own interest. Now, let's read what the CEO of Twitter had to say. So I want to pull this up here. All right, it's taking a minute to spin up. So let that give it a minute. My internet is like super duper slow. I don't know what's going on. Going really, really fast. But again, Elon historically has issues with people, and anytime he doesn't get his way, he just kind of has a little temper tantrum. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. All right, so let's pull this up here. All right, so team, Elon has decided not to join our board. Here's what I can share about what happened. Anytime somebody says, here's what I can share, you know that there's an issue here. The board and I have made many discussions, or excuse me, the board and I have had many discussions about Elon joining the board, and with Elon directly. We were excited to collaborate and clear about the risk. So they knew they were at risk. We also believe that having Elon as a fiduciary, again, I want y'all to write that word down, fiduciary of the company, where he, like all board members, has to act in the best interest of the company and all our shareholders, was the best path forward. The board offered him a seat. We announced on Tuesday that Elon would be appointed to the board contingent on a background check and formal acceptance. Elon's appointment to the board was to become officially effective for April 9th. But Elon shared that same morning that he will no longer be joining the board. I believe that this is the best. This is for the best. We have and will always value input from our shareholders, whether they are on our board or not. Elon is our biggest shareholder, and he will remain open. We will remain open to his input. There will be distractions ahead, but our goal and priorities remain unchanged. The decisions we make and how we execute is in our hands, no one else's. Let's tune out the noise, stay focused on the work and what we're building. What do y'all think about that? What is that think the CEO of Twitter was saying? Now, I would try to say his name. I always mess it up. Parag Agarwal, and I apologize. I don't like messing up people's names, but I wanted to give you a little context, right? So when you look at the board's discussion via the communication from Twitter CEO, the first sentence tells it all. Here's what I can share about what happened. So clearly, if we're all open and honest, you would think you'd be able to share everything, right? But clearly you can't, for whatever reason. The board and I have many discussions about Elon joining the board, and with Elon directly. Here's the word, and this is the word I was telling y'all to focus in on. This is a very, very, very important word. Fiduciary. Now, when I was a registered investment advisor, I was a fiduciary. I still carry myself as a fiduciary. Oftentimes, when you are in this business, you have to put the interest of yourself before those of others. And it doesn't mean that you can't be profitable, you can't make money, you can't take care of your family. However, that just means that you can't recommend a stock to somebody when you just bought 10, 20, 30, 100 shares of it, and now you're trying to pump and dump those things, because that has happened, and it happens a lot, right? So these rules are there for a reason. The reason why board members, right, are not supposed to, or the reason why board members are fiduciaries is because technically they're supposed to look out for the interest of their employees and investors, shareholders. Sometimes you can say some things that could change that. So if you're a fiduciary, you're actually a good steward. If y'all been rocking with me for a minute, y'all know I love the word stewardship. All right. Now, Elon ain't really with any of that, because Elon likes to say what he wants to say, when he wants to say it, how he wants to say it, regardless of who it hurts. If you go back and if you look at some of the regulatory issues he had, the reason why he had those regulatory issues is because he was telling folks he was going to take Tesla private. What did that do? Drove the stock price up. Oh, what is that? Market manipulation. Or it could be viewed as alleged market manipulation. But again, you have to be careful about the words that are coming out of your mouth or the words that are coming out of your fingers. He don't want to do none of that. He don't want to do none of that. And he said as much. His actions reflect as much. I know a lot of people love and revere and worship Elon, especially at his church, his virtual church that's all over the world. But I can't see where this man has acted in a high level of character or integrity. I can't personally, right? Maybe to someone else, but I can't personally see it. But maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. but his actions dictate otherwise, in my opinion. So I wanted to talk about this today because here is a chance that you can actually see some of the inner workings of a board, of a public board, right? And people a lot of times focus on the CEO or the chief executive officer and think that he or she is the guy or gal who's running it, but actually it's the board. The board of directors is what runs a company. Your CEO is the person who makes things happen on the day-to-day. But the people devising the strategy oftentimes are the people on the board of directors. And so anytime your board of directors and you don't jive, you know it's not going to be a good thing. And from Elon's history, you can see that he probably isn't going to jive with anyone else. But sadly, it seems like the whole world has kind of fallen by the wayside as it relates to integrity, as it relates to treating people with grace and kindness. And you could also argue, and I could make this argument too, that the world has never been there, right? Yeah, I can do that too, right? I can have arguments with myself. Sometimes I do argue with myself. Go figure, right? But again, how is this person going to be really good for the overall community of Twitter? You might get a bump on the stock price, potentially. But how long will that last? And will those changes that he proposed be long lasting and good for the culture of Twitter and ultimately the culture and monies or investments of stockholders? So I'd be really interested in what you see. Do y'all think Elon, it will be a good thing? I've asked this question before on this broadcast, I believe last week. Do you believe this is a good thing, or did Elon really just show his colors? I think he showed his colors, but I'm not going to stay on too long with y'all. Remember, do me a favor, follow the Daily Number podcast on YouTube. All right, we got a new channel that'll be up and going very, very soon. The Daily Number podcast on YouTube. And as always, we have to do our daily affirmation. All right. So let me look at my notes here. This is a good one. Today's daily affirmation is a good one. All that I seek is within me. All that I seek is within me. All the times everyone's telling you to look outside. Everybody's telling you to go to talk to this one and go talk to that one. Everyone's telling you to go read this book and go read that book. But never do they tell you to, you know what, just sit down, calm yourself, be quiet and be still for a moment. Because I'm with getting advice from outside people, right? I believe in Proverbs, it says a wise man seeks counsel from wise people, right? Or something like that. I might be butchering it, but it says to go seek wise people, right? There's a lot of knowledge in books. All of y'all know I love my books, right? Got one right here, Black Fortunes, great book. But you can't, none of those things matter though, if you can't just sit down and get into alignment with yourself, figure out what's good for you instead of just running off and doing what's good for the world. And if you just go back and look at all of the quote unquote greats, right, religiously, faith-wise, Jesus went into the wilderness for like 40 days. Buddha stood under a tree forever. Moses was in a desert by himself for a long time. Being alone matters. And when you are alone, you can go within and you can truly find out what's really, really good for you. But that's all we have today for the Daily Number podcast. Remember, go and like the channel, tweet it out. If you like it, subscribe, like, and share, y'all. But again, I appreciate you all. Remember, you all are great. Continue to be great. All right. And always seek the light. Until the next time, I'm Kamari Ellis. I will see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Later. And that concludes our broadcast for the night. I'll stay on for a minute. I'm like swamped with a bunch of work. Let's see. Let me go through and check in with the folks. Jose is in the building. Thank you, Jose. Peace, peace, peace be unto you as well, sir. Oh, Jose is double booking it. He's on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you, sir. All the comedians in the house. JT Coins, what's up, bro? How are you? All right, Jose said nope. We're not wanting to spend money to use Twitter. All right, so that's the first one there. Okay, another bell said, yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess he just wants to change the whole model. And sometimes that can be good. But I don't know. I don't think I would pay for Twitter. All right, JC Coin says, I can't listen to Elon for too long. He stuttered, then mumbles, smile, stutter, mumble, then smirks. Gotta give you the horns for that one, brother. Yes, ma'am. All that you seek is within you. Yeah. But, again, I just wanted to talk about that. I really don't like talking about Elon. I was feeling some kind of way about talking about Elon 2 nights in less than a week. Like he's really that important. He's really not. But it's a popular subject. It's trending. And for the Daily Number podcast, we talk about financial news every day. So it's been in the news. And so somebody wants to hear about it. And I wanted to see if we could change it into a learning lesson as well. Right. So again, do me a favor, y'all, go on over to the Daily Number podcast YouTube channel. We're about to get everything going. YouTube, the actual podcast, so you can listen to it on the go if you missed the YouTube at night, so you can catch it wherever you want. All right, y'all. So I will be back tomorrow. Y'all have a great night, and make sure y'all got y'all taxes done. All right. Later. Have a great night.